ladies and gentlemen, leading off for Sirius XM Progress, here is Mark Thompson with Make It Plain.
866-99 Sirius, 866-997-4748 is the number to call. Joining us in studio, very, very happy to have my friend here. He is Jonathan Alter, the host of Alter Family Politics. He gets his whole family in on the game, and he's been gracious enough to have had me on his show in the past. They're right down the hall on Radio Andy at
10 a.m. Thursdays.
10 a.m. Thursdays. So he's in early to talk to me before he starts his show. So check him out on Radio. And how are you, man?
Good to see you. I'm doing great, Mark. Great
Glad
to see
you're able to make it in here. Finally, we were able to work this out. You made the commute in here early and everything. So it's good to see you.
Good to see you. I put my earmuffs on there because I'm so used to on our show, our son, our 26-year-old, and I have all three of our kids are on the show.
Right.
He's in LA. So I'm in the habit when I come in the studio, I put the headphones on right away.
So you can hear.
Then I realized I don't need that.
Yeah. Well, you actually might need them if we go to calls.
Yeah.
But no, that's right. The whole family, all the kids involved. Charlotte is with Time.
She's at Time Magazine. Mm-hmm. She's one of their top writers. And then Tommy works for Bill Simmons at HBO, the sports guy, and he produces Bill's podcast. That's and he also is a producer of Desus and Mero, the late night show on Viceland that's really popular these days. And then Molly, our youngest, she's in the business world, and it's going to keep us all in clover, I hope, in our old age. She's the only one making any real money.
All the family and the kids doing very, very positive things. We're going to start out talking a little baseball. As you all know, we are one game, the Yankees are, from one win from the World Series. And I out of respect for Jonathan, he's a Cubby. I'm not wearing the wig right now, but he's a Cubby. And rooting for the Cubs. You all up against the wall, though, man.
Yes, we are. Well, we were down 3-0.
And you won last
night. Jake Arrieta struck out 9. He had a great game, and
had to.
But it was still close and very nerve-wracking because the Cubs just haven't been hitting. The only hits they have are an occasional homer. Javi Baez had 2 last night, but their offense is just not getting it done. So they need Rizzo and Bryant, the MVP from last year.
Yeah.
They need them to step up now if they're going to get back into the hunt. But it would be so great to have a Cubs-Yankees World Series like in 1932 when Babe Ruth had the called shot.
Pointed.
And
you believe that story? You believe this? Because there's a lot of dispute about whether he really did that.
Not only do I believe it, I recently, last year at the World Series, interviewed an eyewitness, and that eyewitness is one of the greatest Supreme Court justices in American history, John Paul Stevens.
He saw it.
He saw it. He was there as a little boy, and at the Cubs game last year, at the it was game 3 or 4 of the World Series when they went back to Wrigley Field. And I heard that Stevens was at the game with some members of his family. And I went up to him. I knew him very slightly through some mutual friends. And I started talking to him, and I said, I understand that, you have the ticket stub to the 1932 game, the called shot. And he said, that's right. I was sitting right down there, and he pointed several rows ahead of him. And I said, so did Babe Ruth point? He goes, absolutely. And he's sharp as a tack. This is one of the most important Supreme Court justices of the last 50 years, 100 years even, sharp as a tack. And he tells the story to me a year ago of Ruth pointing. You can sort of see it there. I'm
gonna put it up. I'm putting it so the audience can see. I got it right.
And it all had to do with a beef involving the Cubs dugout, and it involved the pay that they were getting for being in the World Series, and they were all on each other. There's a long story that Stevens told me, but first he points at the dugout, and then he points at the fence, and then he hits the ball over the center field fence.
Wow. So there is footage. For those of you who've yet to join us on Facebook.com/MakeItPlain and YouTube.com/MakeItPlain, I'm going to put it up on the screen behind me in the studio so you can actually see the call shot on the big screen. and they're just ready. He's actually pointing right now.
Yeah.
And so what you're gonna in a minute, it'll keep whenever you join us, it'll keep it'll repeat itself, but you can actually see. I think.
Yeah. So some people say that he was pointing at the dugout, and what
There it is
Justice
pointing right there.
Stevens said is that he was pointing at the dugout and at the fence. He saw it very clearly. He was about 12 years old at the time. His father owned a big hotel that later became the Conrad Hilton Hotel in Chicago, a big hotel in Chicago. It was called
John Paul Stevens.
Yeah, it was called the Stevens Hotel at that time.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, but I mean, think about that. That is an awfully long time ago. And the guy has remembered it all. And that's the last time the Cubs
Well,
and the Yankees.
Yeah, who could forget that?
Right. And
So
he's got the stub to prove it. It was in his office at the Supreme Court.
so it's really like it's unfair when people talk about how much more iconic a Yankee Dodgers series would be than a Yankee Cubs series. It's really equal in terms of the history.
It is equal. I mean, the Yankee Dodger thing, because of the city subway series.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, when is the last time the Yankees played the Dodgers in the World
81.
Series? Okay. Yeah, but see, that doesn't.
And the
have
Dodgers actually won that one, I think.
It does, to me, that doesn't have the same.
That was a strike season.
Historical resonance as Babe Ruth. In the Cubs pitcher was Charlie Root. And and the Cubs, of course, lost because they hadn't until they won last year. They hadn't won since 1908. Back in the teens and early 30s, they would sometimes win the pennant.
Yeah.
And anyway,
so what was it like to be a part of that first World Series?
Oh my God,
100 years.
Oh my God, I went to 4 World Series games last year, and after Game 7 in Cleveland, my press pass got me onto the field, and then I connected with John Cusack, the actor, who I know, and I got into the Cubs dugout, and then I got into the clubhouse, and I was there till 2:30 in the morning, hanging with the players after Game 7. So it was like a dream come true for me as a kid who grew up in the shadow of Wrigley Field. I was raised 5 blocks away, and I used to be able to go to when I was 9 years old. My mom would pack me a brown bag lunch, give me $1 for admission to the bleachers. That's what it cost in the 1960s, and I'd go with a friend. It was day baseball.
Yeah,
and it was like being in the 19th century or something. I would go there every day as a little kid by myself with a friend.
Wow.
For days on end. I'd go to dozens of games every year.
That must have been something. Did you play ball? Did you ever play baseball?
I just, in school a little bit. I wasn't any good, but I did interfere and play once in a Cubs Mets game. And the Chicago Tribune the next day had a headline, "The Fourth Outfielder." And that was me when I was 11 years old. Because remember the Yankees fan who interfered and play in a playoff game and helped them win the pennant.
Right.
He's there was just an article about him in the paper the other day. Can't remember the guy's name, but he. So I was with the stakes way lower because the Cubs were terrible that year. But I the baskets they have at Wrigley Field
about around the island.
So you might not believe this, but one of the reasons they put in the baskets around 1970 is because they were worried about fans interfering in play, and I was one of those fans because I used to bring my glove to the game, and I reached over. There's a picture of me in the paper the next day with my eyes closed, trying to make the play on a home run in the bleachers, and the ball bounces off my glove. And I'm reaching over onto the field, over the wall, and so the hitter ends up on third base, and the Mets are sure that it's a ground rule double, and their outfielder comes out and he's pointing at me, he's yelling at the umpire, "He hit the ball, he interfered in play. It's a ground rule double," but they let the play stand, and the Adolfo Phillips was the hitter. Ended up at third. He scored on a sac fly, and the Cubs won. So as an 11-year-old, I was like, "Hey, the
You hope the Cubs win.
66
Cubs
games
win.
instead of 65 this year.
and Harry Carey was able to say Cubs win.
No, this
Cubs
was before
win.
Harry
It was even
Carey.
before
This
Harry
is Jack
Carey.
Brickhouse was
Oh my
the
God.
announcer in those days.
So now,
sorry to get going on that.
no, that's a great story because I'm baseball is my life. So, favorite Cub of all time.
Ernie Banks.
I figured you were gonna say that. How could he not be?
But I love Billy Williams also.
Yeah, Billy was a good ball player.
And Billy was a lefty like me, and then I also liked a guy I saw him last year on the field before the World Series, and I really admire is Ferguson Jenkins.
Oh yeah, Ferguson was nasty.
And he had a horrible, really sad personal life.
Yeah.
But Ferguson Jenkins, he was like a 6 or 7 time 20 game winner, and some years he would go like 19 and 22, or 21 and 19, and with 20 complete games,
right? Because there was no bull. They didn't have bullpens back then like they do today.
Yeah, it was just a totally different thing. And he, when I've talked to him, I also talked to him before the 2003 playoffs when the Cubs should have won the pennant with a Bartman game. I remember I was talking to Jenkins right before that, and he was wondering like why these pitchers can't go longer the way he did. And it's true that he would give up a certain number of homers, but we do sort of assume that when you hit that 100 pitch mark that you're done. But like I would second guess a lot of the managing decisions on that nowadays. Like I don't think that the Cubs should have taken Hendricks out the other night. Their bullpen isn't that good. Their middle relief isn't that good. And I think Madden, who I think is a fantastic manager generally, he's not sticking with the starters long enough, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, Girardi took Sevy out, I think, too early in game 2 in Houston. So we'll see what happens. But we're sitting pretty. Can y'all win 3 straight?
Yeah.
Can you win 3 straight against the Dodgers?
Yes, and we can. I'm not saying we will, but if they win tonight, if the Cubs win tonight, then they go back to LA, and I think they've got a decent shot. That's what happened in the World Series last year.
That's right. Because they were down down 3.
They were down 3-1.
That's right, 3-1.
And they came back, and they won the last 3.
So we will see. Well, good luck to the Cubbies. So you root for Cubs and Yankees World. So you support the Yankees too.
Oh yeah. I want the Yankees to play the Cubs. Astros, their uniforms are butt ugly. Who wants that in the World Series?
They should do? They should go back to the original ones with the multicolor. Those were the old school uniforms used to wear in the Astrodome.
Oh, I don't like those either.
Oh, I love those, man. Those were hot.
They and the Padres, they just have the worst.
The Padres were worst of all. But the Astros, I like the Astros originals.
Shit brown uniforms, the Padres.
Brown and yellow.
Come on.
McDonald's uniforms. Okay, I know you all want us to talk a little bit of politics, and we will do that. Again, if you want to join us on video, you'll see Babe Ruth behind me calling his shot at Wrigley. I've been to Wrigley. I've visited Wrigley myself.
It's a temple. All your listeners got to go to Wrigley.
Wrigley is a temple. One time in
your lifetime.
Wrigley is a temple. Yankee Stadium is a cathedral. That's
not bad.
Yeah, that's okay. We can live with that.
I'll take that.
You knew when you left the house this morning what you were going to get into, right? I mean, that's how Donald Trump would say it.
Yeah. Oh, you knew what they were in for, right? Okay, so that's what Trump says to the grieving family. Oh, he knew what he signed up for.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
Come on, man. Who says that? And then that one family. Why not every family? He tells one family is going to send him $25,000, Jonathan. Just randomly. And I think he finally sent the check. Now, is he offering every family a personal check?
He should offer every family a check, because it would, if you took 1,000 families, and there's only been 9 or 10, I think, on his watch who've died, but this man claims he's worth $10 billion. He's not, but to just give everybody who's died $100,000, it would be less than 1/10 of 1/100th of 1% of what he claims to be his net worth. It's like a bar bill for him to give money to all these families, but he won't, because he's cheap and because he's not nearly as rich as he claims he is.
That's right.
Almost as bad as the money thing and the insensitive comment that he made to that grieving family that the Congresswoman witnessed, is he tell these families, the White House would say, oh, the president's going to call you. One family yesterday said, I waited 2 days for the president to call. They said he's going to call. I didn't leave the house waiting for him to call. This is a grieving mother. He never called. He never called after they said he was going to call. I mean, it's one thing if he just doesn't call.
Right.
But to say the president is going to be calling and then
he doesn't call.
He's too busy playing golf or insulting somebody to actually call. This, I have no idea whether this is going to penetrate because nothing ever really does with his base. But we should remember that there are large numbers of people out there who have soured on this president. And I think we sometimes get in this thing where we go, oh, the base, nothing works with them. But he is the least popular president by a lot of anybody since polling started.
We've been looking for Jonathan Alter with us, folks, at 9 minutes for the hour. We've been looking and anticipating what his real Achilles heel is. What is the final straw, the last straw? And there hasn't been one, but it looks like, there's just, it's in the end, it's going to be an accumulation of things, including Puerto Rico, including what he did to this family, including the repeal of DACA. I think, though, Jonathan, the most dangerous and most reckless thing he's done with regards to national security has been the decertification of the Iran nuclear deal. Now, he hadn't taken it off the table yet, but we're on that road. Even saying Little Rocket Man, okay, that's bad enough. We thought that was bad. But if he believes that Iran is a so-called bad actor in terms of terrorism, let's say worst case scenario, that's true. At least this deal prevents that bad actor from having a nuclear weapon. What he's going to do is enable this bad actor, so-called bad actor, to get a bomb.
Yeah, so this is something that I have been writing about for years now, and I remember when President Obama was in office and this deal was pending, I talked to men who had been head of the Israeli security operation, security unit, which is called Shin Bet, their internal security, and then also Mossad, which I think people are more familiar with, which is like their CIA. But 2 former heads of these agencies. Now, at the time, Netanyahu was against this deal, and that's why Trump's against it, because he loves Netanyahu. And a lot of the politicians in Israel and the United States were against the deal. But when I talked to the people who are actually responsible for the national security of Israel, they were going, are you crazy? Of course we need this.
Yeah.
Of course this is bad. They didn't like the way Obama negotiated. But if they said, if we can buy 10 years, of course, why would we not do that? They're the ones more than the United States that are in danger of being attacked. But this is insane to get rid of this. And a lot of people predicted that the Iranians would not comply with the terms of the deal, and they actually have. That's beyond question. Now, they've done some other bad stuff in the region, and they fund Hezbollah, which is a terrorist organization, and we can be very tough on them on that without blowing up this deal. The other thing that the deal, if we blow it up, it would mean that there would be no possibility of any negotiation with North Korea, because why would the North Koreans engage in any negotiations about their nuclear program if we just blew up the Iran deal?
It's dangerous.
Well, the whole thing, his whole foreign policy is dangerous. I was just in Washington yesterday, and people there they're both parties. They're terrified this clown is going to get us into a war. And so that there's not going to be, you raise the final straw. There's not going to be a final straw. There might be a smoking gun that gets him impeached, but presidents can always recover depending on events.
Yeah.
So he can come back from this. That's one of the things that's alarming. So, he can reinvent himself in certain ways, and people have amnesia anyway. They don't remember all this stuff. It's hard to remember the outrage of last week because these outrages
keep coming. Something new all the time.
But I was glad Roger Goodell stood up to him.
Yeah,
that was important. It's important that people who are, seen as being kind of representative of that.
Of course, being Roger Goodell, NFL, and the NFL punish players.
The kind of the white man. If you have people, the NFL, a lot of Trump voters who are in their fan base, And if the NFL is standing up for their players against Trump, that's a good sign.
Jonathan Alter, Alter Family Politics, coming up at 10 a.m. on Radio Andy. Good to see you, man.
Great to see you.
Got to get you back in here sometime.
Love it.
Love it. Jonathan Alter is great, folks. If all minds are clear, it has been made plain.